introduction, and thank you also to the Committee for Wagga and HIA. I want 67,000 Wagga residents and beyond to think every day, what can we do to make a better, more prosperous community in the future?
Look, I go back probably well over a decade now, and I recall going to a meeting in Wagga, and there was a guest speaker from one of the committee for cities in another state. I think it was Melbourne, if I recall correctly, and Judy Galloway was there.
It was a very new concept, and once we, the inaugural group, got together and thought about it and how we were going to approach it, it was a difficult concept to sell, because most people in business, when they're investing, they want a return on that investment. But this was a more strategic approach, and very much in regards to corporate social responsibility.
I was approached to apply for the job of the CEO for Committee for Wagga in pretty early 2012, and then I applied for that job and I got the job at the end of February 2012, and then immediately we went to Perth to mix with all the high-flying committee for cities everywhere, and we were a very fledgling organisations with no money and pretty much nothing. And then Judy Galloway, the chair at the time, was there with me, and we started to sort of formulate a few strategies as to what we might do and what we thought Committee for Wagga would need to do to be a worthwhile organisation in the city.
We ended up, I think, with a large number of sponsors, both corporate and small business, community and also government. And together, I think we've made a real difference within the Wagga community.
There was a noticeable gap from the business community in terms of long-term strategic planning for Wagga, and that need was recognised on the basis that we needed to have an apolitical organisation that looked at a longer-term position for the future of the city.
I think in devising the strategic future for Committee for Wagga Wagga, it was about how do we make this community strong, resilient, sustainable, build it for growth, but also make it a safe, culturally aware community to live in.
Committee for Wagga, I think, does fill a need that wasn't there at the time. There are other associations, there are other entities, there are other groups, but there wasn't just the one single entity that focused on the entire city as a whole, and that was the very tenet of what we wanted to do from the very beginning.
We recognised that we were getting towards the 10-year mark, and we felt it was a good time to celebrate what we had achieved as a committee for the Wagga region, and we also wanted to just highlight some of the things that we have achieved over the last 10 years before we sort of angle towards our new strategic direction and updated strategic plans for the future.
It will safeguard our city. The levy bank, identified as our most important piece of infrastructure in the Committee for Wagga's strategic plan.
We just need to make sure that the levy bank reconstruction is our #1 priority, and until that's constructed and complete, we can't drop off it.
It is vital that during flood times and natural disaster times that the community is able to be safe, that those areas that have housing and residential in the central Wagga Wagga. But the most critical factor is that the businesses be able to continue to function and continue to service all of the needs of just not the city, the Army, the Air Force and Navy that we are home to. And so the levy bank was really a vital piece of work.
We had a major flood in the city in March 2012.
Up to 2,600 homes and more than 1,000 businesses will be inundated, leaving over 7,000 people uprooted.
And that just rocked the city because we thought we had a levy bank that gave us a 1 in 100 year flood protection, but it was really only 1 in 60.
So Committee for Wagga was instrumental in getting the community together, business and government to address the need. We got to the stage where people were finding it very difficult to insure property within Wagga, and premiums were going through the roof. So after taking the lead on that, we managed to secure across the 3 tiers of government $23 million to upgrade the levy bank, and that project was completed March 2020.
The thing that inspires me most and has inspired me most with the Committee for Wagga Wagga is their leadership programs. And they are so vital because without leaders, community leaders, your community falters and fails. If you leave it up to everybody else to have something done for your community, it's not going to bring about the sustainability and the resilience that we require.
Emerging Leaders was a fantastic program that I was a part of some years ago. It was fantastic because it was quite unique to other experiences I'd had throughout my career. The reason being is there was participants from different industries, different organisations, different levels of experience. And that allowed me to learn a lot, stretch the way I was thinking about certain things and certainly build stronger relationships right here in Wagga.
It's almost that I'm a bit more, I question things a bit more. She sort of taught me that probably, to not just take things on face values.
I think that when we were taken up on the top of that tower and we had to leap out that first step, which is a bit like anything, the first time you make a decision or the first time you take a leap, that you can make a decision under pressure, but that first leap, that first step is the scariest, and then once you've mastered it, your confidence comes and you can finish the task.
We followed that up with a mentoring program which just gave one-on-one opportunities for emerging leaders to meet one-on-one with some of our more successful business leaders and community leaders, which was a fantastic opportunity for those participants.
And then I think the other things I really got from Emerging Leaders was confidence, but also leveraging all of those sort of great experiences of others to be able to take the next steps in my career.
And we also recognised that there was an opportunity there to undertake similar leadership training for younger emerging leaders, being those still in school.
Scott Braid, he was a board member at the time, he came up with the Wagga School Leaders Program initiative.
I'd done a few leadership courses beforehand and they were all sort of stock standard, but the program ended up far exceeding that, just in the programs and the activities that we did together, the people that we met. I'd never really been exposed to anything like that.
We solicited some help and we got a curriculum based around the program so that we saw it as a fair dinkum thing, not just good ideas on the day and you go out and spruik all this stuff that probably didn't connect. So we had a really good integrated and connected program put together, and then we took that to the CSU and they said they wanted to be in on that. So they gave us some initial funding and then we got some sponsors to make it happen. So getting the imprimatur of the university was a big ticket, a big result for us, and then that enabled us to get Kapooka on board, some businesses on board, get some support from the CSU lecturers, and then put our own sort of street appeal into the program to make it real.
There's a lot of activities that we did. Probably the favourite one was going to the army base at Kapooka. That was pretty interesting because we were sort of pushed physically but also mentally, and it was a strong focus on teamwork. Probably one of the greatest skills that I gained was communication in a team setting, as well as communicating as a leader.
Our Wagga School Leaders program continues, and it's been a success for the last 6 years of really driving some ambassadors for Wagga out of the schools.
One of the best things I think we did was CCTV, which was, I remember at the time a letter was sent out by council to pretty much all the businesses in Wagga to say who's interested in getting CCTV. And apparently they didn't get any response. But we thought as an organisation that that would be a very valuable asset for the whole of the community from a safety perspective.
And the Jill Maher case in Melbourne was a catalyst again for us to get stuck into that project, and council they weren't really pushing it enough. So when they put $200,000 on the table, we said we'll get $200,000. And then that project ended up being a $1.2 million, and we get federal money and state money.
I remember there was one school group and the kids fundraised because they thought it was really important, and they donated some money. So it was an all-of-community thing.
The CCTV cameras in the CBD, they're vitally important to us. Obviously, you know, around licensed premises and so forth, from time to time we'll have incidents of assaults, we'll have incidents of stealing and so forth from retail premises. Our police are able to go and capture that footage when it's available, and it's a vital part of our brief of evidence that we put towards the court, because there's not much better evidence than actually seeing somebody committing an offence. Also, we have the ability here at the police station to monitor offences as they take place. So for example, if we get called down to, say, a taxi rank or something similar in the early hours of the morning, if we haven't got police on scene at the time, our officers are able to view what's actually happening live from the police station and direct our car crews to where they actually need to go.
This is New Year's Eve 2016.
And we did sort of dabble in this events Wagga type stuff, trying to bring events and stuff in there to the city. And so we actually did our own thing by creating the Wagga Live New Year's Eve event, which was a fantastic event.
For about 4 years it was terrific because it brought a lot of people down here to the Victoria Memorial Gardens, and it was a great celebration for a year end and a welcoming in of the new year. I think each year we had about 12,000 people here and across in front of the Civic Theatre, and I know it was really well received, and that was one of our contributions to the community of Wagga.
You know, thank you Wagga people for getting behind the Committee for Wagga.
Sensational, mate. Just, it's above our wildest dreams. I mean, we were obviously looking for 6,000 to 7,000, but to end up 10 plus is just fantastic. And the people have come and they've enjoyed it, and you know, there's still more to go. So it's a great night.
So special activation precincts across New South Wales are the recipients of the $4.2 billion Snowy Hydro Legacy Fund. That money's being divvied up across the SAPs. Wagga Wagga is one of the key locations that's been identified as ripe for industrial trade.
SAP is a fantastic opportunity. It was, again, another one of these initiatives from the state government that sought to build on various other projects that were happening both at state and federal level, inland rail. Governments can build the platform of the SAP and put in place the base work for it to happen. But ultimately it's going to be private enterprise that comes on board to work together with other private enterprise and with government to relocate factories, develop technologies to support what's going to be there and so forth.
And that means that we're going to be the gateway to the Riverina for all logistics from Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, and of course we're in the prime seat as it is halfway between Sydney and Melbourne anyway. So this is going to open up huge opportunities and the billions of dollars of trade, not just here in Wagga and Australia, but Wagga Wagga linked to the rest of the world. And that is an exciting time for Wagga Wagga.
Lights Around the Lake was one of the other programs that we completed.
Elodie van Udenhuyk, who was a member of the Emerging Leaders, came up with the idea of the Lights for the Lake.
We were able to, through Chris Fitzpatrick, who was the inaugural CEO, we were able to get some funding from local business to purchase each of those lights, and we also got some state funding as well.
When the opportunity came up to be able to contribute to the Lights for the Lake, we jumped at the opportunity because the lake is such a wonderful asset for Wagga, and so many people use the facility, and to be able to extend that period of use is just a great asset to have.
We went to the media initially to get support for anyone who was going to put money into that, whether it was a sponsorship or a donor situation. 2017, it got across the line and we turned the lights on. So that, I think, is a show of what you can do if you've got the business, the media, the community and everyone else, and obviously council, together for a project that's for the city.
And welcome to the Wagga Wagga 100,000 by 2038 seminar.
The Wagga 100,000 was a significant event for the Committee for Wagga and brought some phenomenal speakers around Bernard Salt to just talk about Wagga Wagga towards 100,000 people and what that meant in different industries.
So we sought, along with our partners in that, the HIA, to bring that conversation, those strategic documents, out into the public domain for conversation for awareness and for some spirited debate as to what Wagga 100,000 should look like from the community's perspective. I must admit, we had a great level of cooperation from the Daily Advertiser. We sat down and said, this is really important. This needs the community to be involved. It needs the message to get out, and it needs to get out there in a fashion that is not controversial but is informative and bring people to the table to participate in the conversation. We were again very fortunate to secure the services of Bernard Salt, who brought another dynamic to the conversation. Always an interesting dynamic, but very supportive of Wagga pursuing this type of growth strategy.
The Committee for Wagga wants to make sure that we are providing a sustainable towards 100,000, the infrastructure, the social infrastructure, everything attached to what would Wagga need to have 100,000 people live in the city, but also be Australia's most livable regional city.
So I think we've matured a lot as a city in that the city today, when you look at the active transport trails, you look at the Riverside project, you look at the hospital that's been developed, CCTV, the levee banks, so all these things have come online because I think there's just been an appetite to get it done rather than sit back and talk about it.
Most like about the Committee for Wagga Wagga is that business people are passionate, dedicated and committed to keeping their community strong. They engage and involve themselves wholeheartedly to ensure that there is opportunity for the many people who live, work and visit in this city.
It's interesting when you go to other parts of New South Wales or Australia, people actually always think that good things only come from large metropolitan cities. Well, they don't. Great stuff happens here too.
Wagga's growing and we see huge potential in where Wagga can be in the coming years. An organisation like Committee for Wagga is vital in helping drive that.
It's really important for the business community to be heard and to work in partnership with.
And us continuing our membership is just us being able to show in a very, very small way our support for what the Committee for Wagga is doing.
That is the greatest thing about the Committee for Wagga, is the people that garner together in the best interests of this city. You don't see that often. We are an amazing community that is a can-do community that does it for themselves and doesn't expect that everything be delivered for them without some effort on our behalf. And we are really, the Committee for Wagga Wagga is stoking up that effort.